Hey guys, in this video I'm going to teach you guys how to make liquid culture, how to take spores from a spore print and inoculate your liquid culture. But in order to do that, I got to teach you how to make your liquid culture jars and prepare the formula. So in order to get your liquid culture made, you're going to need your spore print, you're going to need an inoculation loop to get the spores. You're going to want some micropore tape that you can buy at, Walmart, Walgreens. Red silicone RTV gasket sealer at high temperature. This is for the poor man's method of making the liquid culture lids. Now, the fancy way to do it is with these filters, the syringe filters, and the medical grade like inoculation ports. You're gonna want leak-proof lids for the fancy ones. You can get these at Walmart, and you're gonna want a drill and many different sizes of drill bits. Okay, and I forgot to mention that we will need stir bars. These are very useful when you have the stir plate, so that they stir the inside of your jar without you having to open it and expose it to contaminants. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna teach you how to make the two different methods of making the lids for your liquid culture. Okay, so first you want to make a hole in the jar, the size of a needle, a decent size so that you can get your needle inside. This one might be actually a little too big, but it doesn't matter. We can just drill a hole in it. And then we're going to switch out the bit and use a bigger one for the filter patch. Okay, so we get a new one, drill a bigger hole. This is for the filter so that there's oxygen or air able to get inside the jar. And make sure you get all these little metal shavings out of the jar. And then we're gonna go to the next step. The first step here is to push a big glob of this RTV silicone into the smaller hole, kind of push it in, and then do a little spiral so it doesn't come undone. And then as you can see, the underside, it came out from the bottom, and that will help you so that when you pull out your syringe, that it's not going to pull out this whole plug. So you want to make a nice fat layer on top so that you can inject through there, and this will seal up. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to dry up, and it's heat resistant, and it will also seal itself when you stick your needle in there and inoculate and pull it out. It seals the hole by itself. So that's how you make that part. Next, you want to cut a nice little square of this micropore tape and place it over the other hole. This is so that the mycelium can breathe. I usually use one layer. Sometimes I use two. It's just a personal preference thing. Doesn't really matter. If you leave one layer, then it can breathe better. But that's pretty much what you do. This jar is ready, and you can use it for liquid culture. All you have to do now is actually put the magnetic stir bar in there and then add the formula. But we're gonna let this dry, and then we'll use it later once the silicone has dried. And that's how you make a nice clean, poor man's tech of the liquid culture jar. Okay, now we're going to show you the other method, the rich man's tech. And we're going to get a little drill bit that's slightly about the same size or smaller than the tip of this filter. And we're going to drill a little hole on the side. And then this guy is just going to be forced in there. It doesn't really quite fit in there, but if you force it in, then it creates that seal, nice and clean. We switch out the drill bits, get a little bigger one for the inoculation port. And same thing, drill a hole on the side. And no plastic fill in there, so that's good. Now this guy has a little bit of a wider outer part, and the inside is a lot skinnier. So you just kind of force it in there, wiggle it in, You might have to push a little hard and spin at the same time, and it gets in there. Once it's on there, you're all set. Much easier, much cleaner, and more professional. Um, they're both great methods, but these metal lids will rust over time and they start looking kind of messed up. There's nothing really wrong with it, but they look a little bit different, and so I like to do this method. It's a lot cleaner. The lids last forever, and yeah, it's more professional. So that's how you prepare the jars for liquid culture. So essentially, the concept here is the same. You have the breathing port that's here, and the inoculation port, which is the RTV silicone, and here it's just a syringe inoculation port. Looks different, but it's basically the same concept. Air gets in, um, not, and contaminants don't get in, and then you stick your syringe in here, inject or siphon things out of here. Okay, so depending on the size of the jar that you're going to use, you want to make a 4% solution. So that's going to be 50% dextrose and 50% malt extract. But you want the solution to be 4% of the total volume. So these guys here are 16-ounce jars, 900 milliliters. I usually make it 800 milliliters so that it leaves some room up here so that I can see mycelium, so I can see the top. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top. You want to leave it, like do it right up to the shoulder. So 4% of the 800 would be 32. So you want to do 16 grams of dextrose, 16 grams of malt extract, and then the rest is just water. If you got your formula in there, we're gonna add water, and I'm gonna fill up 3. We're gonna pressure cook 3 of these, and then we're gonna cover the top with foil. Because this is a beginner's video for growing mushrooms, I am gonna teach you how to make the solution, the agar solution for petri dishes. So you're gonna need some agar and dextrose from that we use for the other stuff. So we're gonna measure out 10 grams of the agar and 7.5 grams of dextrose. We're gonna mix that with 500 milliliters of water, and then we're gonna stick it in a jar, and we're gonna pressure cook it for 30 minutes with the liquid culture. Okay, so we want to cover these with foil, and you want to leave the lid a little loose because you don't want to create an explosion or implosion in the jar. Leave it loose. We're gonna cover it with foil, and then we're gonna stick them in the pressure cooker. I'm gonna show you how to set up the pressure cooker to sterilize. This is how you set up the pressure cooker if you're not using bags. So there's a different setup for the bags, but for this, I just take some empty cat food cans, drill holes in them, put them upside down in here, make a little triangle, stick the base. The reason we do this is that so that you can separate the bottom so that it doesn't heat up the jar or the bags. It kind of adds a protective layer, 2-inch layer. Put it in there, and then we start putting in our jars like so. Usually I pack this thing full of jars, but today we're only doing 4 things. So we're just adding these jars, and we're gonna fill it with water up to until it reaches the base. Okay, so now we got everything in the pressure cooker. We're gonna turn the heat up probably to about 250. Let's try let's do 250. We're gonna do 250, and it's gonna get hot. The gauge is gonna go up, 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 up. Once it reaches the 15 psi, we're gonna let that sit there for 30 minutes. So it takes a little while to get up there, but once it hits 15, it stays. We want to keep it there for 30 minutes, and when that's done, we're finished. We're gonna let it cool down, and then we're gonna do the next part later to show you guys how to inoculate your liquid culture now that you have it made.